My role with him is to be a support, to be an encourager, to be a listening ear, to be there for him when he has questions about how can he best handle this challenge or this situation. But most of all, I want to communicate to him that I love him and that I trust that he has everything that he needs in order to succeed in life. If he will just listen to God, continue to pursue his relationship with him, spend time in God's word, and surround himself with other people who have that same desire to put God first, then all will be well and he'll be able to do well in life. And I want that to be my main message and conversation with him. He doesn't need me to come in and remind him to shower and to clean his room and to brush his teeth, or all those things that I've done for years with him. Now's the time that he's stepping into being a man, and I want to support him to be just that. And I want him to encourage our time. I want him to be encouraged by our time together and not feel like mom keeps reminding me and keeps talking to me like I'm this little guy. Because he knows, he looks in the mirror, he doesn't see this little guy. I look at him and see this. He sees himself as a man, and I want to support that vision. And I want to support him stepping into and being brave and being bold about living the life that God has called him to. All right, next. One of the things that we are being very intentional about is not mistaking caring for taking care. It's very easy to mistake the two because we want to be caring and loving towards our children, but that doesn't mean we take care of them always. We are teaching them how to soar. I have talked to my children over the years as we've done homeschooling. That's the way we've done their education for our family. It was the best choice. And we talked about each year when they would get their new school books and they'd be all excited. I would say this year is going to be a little bit more challenging than last year. And every year I'd say it again. This year is going to be a little bit more challenging than last year. That's part of the design. Each year the challenges get a little greater and a little greater, and they're all for a reason and for a purpose. They are preparing you to launch. I said, I want you to think about a plane coming down the runway, right? The pilot lines that plane up on the runway and he gets everything in position, and then you can hear him flipping switches and you can hear the engines firing up and you can see the flaps on the wings are getting in position, and then suddenly it starts to move forward and it moves forward and it moves forward and it's picking up speed and it's picking up momentum, and then it just takes off. I love planes. I love flying, and I love that visual because there have been flights that have been captured on video that when they take off, they're kind of bumpy and rocky and it looks scary to watch them take off. And there's some that have to abort their whole flight takeoff and they need to pull it back down and go in. And I said, my desire for you, son, is that when you go down that runway and as you're progressing through life, you're picking up momentum. And when it's time for you to lift off, you'll know, just like a pilot knows it's time to pull up. When it's time for you to pull up, you take off and you soar in life. That's what we want for you. Trust me, if it gets a little bumpy and rocky in your takeoff, we might be tempted to be afraid. But I'm going to trust that just like that pilot in that seat is skilled, that you, son, have the skills you need to get that plane back in line and taking off. I trust that God is with you, that He is orchestrating your life. And though it may look bumpy and rocky, you've got this. And if you need to abort takeoff and come back and circle around and try it again, if you need to come back home, if you need to reevaluate your plans and maybe you don't feel like you're headed in the right direction, no worries. I trust that you can abort that flight, come back, circle around, and take off again. Rebuild up momentum and go. But either way, I don't want you to think that I, first of all, don't trust that you're ready. And secondly, I don't want you to mistake that because I care, I need to take care. I trust you enough that if you need to abort that flight, you know it. And you know how to take care of business in order to get yourself back in position to soar. That doesn't look like you need to come back and mama needs to solve your problems and mama needs to fix it and mama needs to rearrange her life in order to take care of all of that. Instead, I want you to take the reins. I want you, how many analogies am I going to mix in here, right? Flights, planes, whatever, right? But this is just how I talk to my kids. I'm just sharing with you exactly what I share with them. I want you to take responsibility for your future and your life. It's time. All right, the next thing. Expectations. My husband and I, had to get really clear on what are our expectations for our young adults as they're stepping out into their next step in life. What do we expect of them? What is it that we need for them to know that they're responsible for as they're moving forward? You see, there are still things that we handle financially. We handle car insurance. We handle their health insurance. We take care of lights, cell phones, those things. We still handle those things financially because we tell them, as long as you are fully enrolled in school and doing well, we are happy to support you in this way. Should you decide that you want to do something differently than that, then it's time for you to assume responsibility of all of your bills and move forward in your life. As long as you're moving forward, pursuing what God has for you, for him, his next best step was college. If it was some other school or training, we'd equally support him in that. But as long as he has a plan and he's clear, we're happy to support that. The second he goes, I don't really know what I want to do with life and I just want to kind of take a break, cool. We're happy to support you in that too. And the best way we know to support you is to let you feel the weight of what adulthood feels like. Adulthood looks like responsibilities. Adults handle their business. They make their decisions and they take on the consequences of the responsibilities for those decisions. If you decide that you want to take a break in life, great. Here's what comes along with taking a break from school or taking a break from pursuing the plan that we've agreed to. And I want you to know that our expectation of you is that you're going to class, that you're doing your studies, that you're getting the grades, that you're making the connections, that you're pursuing opportunities and experiences that will enrich your education so that when you finish with that degree, you're ready to go into the next phase of your life with bells on. Like you're ready for that. You're amply prepared. This is what this season is. This is not the season of us cooking meals for you and reminding you to bathe and us orchestrating all of your life. You're in a phase where you're handling those details. Now we get to support you financially with those things that we have committed to cover for you while you're pursuing your education. Not only have Ron and I decided these things, we've also shared them with him. So if you have some expectations of your children, that's beautiful. Also take that next step and make sure you communicate them, because there's nothing that sets us up for disappointment like having uncommunicated expectations of one another. Just like our children might still have expectations that we'll cook and clean and do their dishes or do their laundry for them. And we go, wait a minute. No, why would I continue to do your laundry? Like, you've got this. But maybe you decide that still cooking for them, still doing laundry for them is the way that you're going to support your child into the next phase of their life. Communicate that. And what are the things you expect of them? Do you expect them to still continue to take care of the yard or to keep your vehicle clean and your husband's vehicle clean? Or you expect them to be available twice a week to take their siblings to classes? Or you expect them to help with groceries? Or like, what is it that you're looking for? Whatever that expectation is, be sure and communicate it. If you expect for them to be home at least one major holiday if they're off to school and they have breaks, because they might make plans to go home with a friend. And then you're like, wait, I thought for sure you'd come home. But if you never communicate that expectation, how will they know They're excited about life. They're excited about the adventures. What is it that you want? Make sure you communicate with them. And also listen to what their expectations are and tell them you fully expect them to share those. Because that's what adults do. They communicate with one another. So this is not assumption, your mom, your dad, that means you will. What is it that you expect of us? What is it that you need from us? How can we best support you as you move forward? Listen to them. Write down what they say. Prayerfully consider what they're sharing with you. And then communicate what you're willing to do. Maybe they've asked for some things that you're not willing to do, and be willing to share that with them. This is a great time for beautiful, open communication between you and your new adult. Next, have you had an open and honest conversation about what's next for them? So, after my son finishes school, will he be in a place to step into this medical field that he wants to step into? What would that look like? Well, we've determined that just getting a bachelor's degree will not be enough for him. So he will be going into graduate studies. What does that look like for him time-wise? What does that look like for him as far as his living choices and the expenses of that? How will he cover those? Is he really committed to that for the long haul? Or did it just seem like a good idea when he was in his freshman and sophomore years? Well, he's determined that he is committed to that. He's showing that commitment by being willing to take his time by going to community college, slowing down the pace. He didn't have to jump right off into university. So he's really managing his expenses. He's been working for several years. He worked at Chick-fil-A, and now he's done his internship, which was a paid internship. He's put most of that money away in the bank. You see, our children have a spending percentage that most people cringe at, and I'll share it with you here. Throughout their life, when they've been given money, are you ready? I hope you're sitting down, because when most people hear that, they go, what? But there's the 80-10-10. Most people have heard of that. Ours is a little different. They get to tithe or give to some organization 10%. Then they get to spend 10%, and they get to save 80%. That's our 80-10-10. You better believe our children have learned to respect a dollar, because a dollar gift from grandma looks like they get 10 cents to spend. Ouch. Before you have pity on the kids, come on. Their food, clothing, shelter, and treats are all covered by their parents. So really, this is any extras that they want to get. Rarely have grandparents ever just given them a dollar, but all the same, I want them to honor the gifts that they are given by first learning how to account for them financially. I give part of what I'm given freely, I give back to others. And I want them to think beyond the moment to their future by saving. And then they have the money that they get to spend and enjoy freely. It was freely given to them. They didn't have to work and earn this thing. It was a gift. Even when they have worked, and when he got older and they went to school, he had a vision bigger than the moment. It wasn't, a paycheck, let's spend it. Okay, that was my experience when I started working. I wish someone would have helped me to have a bigger vision than just that moment, because I blew my money, blew it, gone, hoping and looking forward to the next paycheck. Why can't it be tomorrow? Because I need money, right? And instead, we wanted to intentionally teach our children to manage their finances with the future in mind, not just this moment. So our numbers might seem cray-cray to you, and that's cool with me. Maybe you want to show this portion of the video to your children to go, see, now, don't you love your mama that much more? We didn't put you on that kind of a strict plan like the Seay children got put on. Whatever, however this video serves you, if it makes you look better, I'm happy to serve you in that way. All the same, let's be intentional about helping our children think beyond just right now. Some of them might feel really exhausted. They think, man, I just finished high school and that was tough. Now I've gone through all the hoops I needed to go through to get into college or to get into my next field of study. And I just want to exhale and kind of kick back for a minute. I get that feeling. I remember that feeling. And still have those gentle conversations of saying, this is not home yet. You haven't landed the plane. We're not done. There's still more for us to talk about. We don't have to decide today, but let that be on your mind. What's next for you? And how do you see making that transition? This is the season of life where they're likely to meet their spouse. And how will you want to handle that transition? What will that look like? What will determine your readiness for that? How do you want them to seek support in making that decision? If they're going to be away at school, have you gone and found a church for them to be connected to and found people for them to connect to so that on the weekends they have some people where they can go to be encouraged and enriched in the right things? There's tons of people who want to spend time with them, but not necessarily for encouraging them to do the right things. So maybe it's time to go to the city where they'll be living and help them to find a church and help them to get connected to some people who can really speak life into them and really encourage them to excel and to stand in maturity and readiness for all that God has for them. There's so many different ways that we get to be intentional in this. It looks like lots of conversations. It looks like lots of time. And let's make no mistake, it looks like lots of prayer. They will go through a lot of changes and transitions. And even as I say this, I get a little chill down my spine because I know that it might not look like what I want for him always. And yet, my deepest, truest faith is that God is with him and God is for him. And now's his time to see that and know that for himself like never before. I trust that I've done all that I know to do to pour truth into him, to pour in a support for him that lets him know he is loved and cared for, that let him know that home always will be a safe place for him. This is not a place where he's judged or shamed or blamed or embarrassed. This is a safe place for him. And now is his time to step out and truly trust God like never before. So these are the ways that our family is being intentional as we've raised and now we're releasing. We have held their hand. Now we're opening our hands and we're saying now's the time for you to lead the way. I hope that something I've said has been helpful to you, encouraging to you, giving maybe some food for thought or opportunities for conversation in your home. If there's something more that I can share, if there's some details you have questions about, please reach out to me. You can always find out more about what I'm up to or other information I'm sharing that's encouraging for moms by going to my website, Susan, Seay.com. Take care. Bye for now.